Amber Heard 在这场诽谤官司里可以说是惨淡收场。当很多网民都在高声欢呼时，很多法律界人士和家暴专家们都对裁决感到惊讶和担心。到底 Amber Heard 是输在哪里呢？而这些专家们都在担心些什么呢？ Hello， 大家好，这里是 Law Sister 法律达人，我是 Angel。在这个频道，我不是跟您说八卦新闻的，我是根据法律来带您看八卦新闻。Law Sister 在上一支影片已经告诉过大家，如果 Johnny Depp 想要赢得这场诽谤官司的话，需要什么样的证据？我也在另一支影片里告诉过大家，如果诽谤证据不足的话，陪审团和法官能不能让 Johnny Depp 赢，来伸张正义呢？还没订阅 Law Sister 法律达人这个 YouTube 频道的朋友们，请订阅我们，来鼓励我们做出更好的影片，谢谢您。现在官司已经落幕，双方都被判诽谤罪成立，只是 Amber Heard 需要付 Johnny Depp 1035万美金的赔偿金，而 Johnny Depp 也必须付 Amber Heard 200万元美金的赔偿金。总的来说 ，Johnny Depp 是这个案件的大赢家，而 Amber Heard 是输在哪里呢？以下这个访谈是 PBS News Hours 对 Ruth Glenn， 就是美国国家反对家庭暴力联盟的总裁兼首席执行官的访问。我们可以从这个访谈里猜到底 Amber Heard 是输在哪里。听完后 Law Sister 会做个总结。
Let's turn now to some of the questions coming out of the trial of actors Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. A Virginia jury yesterday ordered Heard to pay Depp, her ex-husband, $15 million in damages in a defamation case. The jury also ordered Depp to pay Heard $2 million in damages. Depp sued his ex-wife for defamation in 2019 after she published a piece the year before about her experiences as a survivor of domestic abuse. John Yang looks at some concerns over the fallout from this trial.
Jeff, Johnny Depp sued his ex-wife over a Washington Post op-ed in which she referred to herself as a public figure representing domestic abuse. While Heard never mentioned Depp by name, the actor argued it was clear she was referring to him and said it cost him work. During the trial, Heard testified that Depp had sexually, physically, and verbally abused her. Depp denied any physical or sexual abuse and accused Heard of domestic abuse against him. The 6 weeks of testimony generated international headlines, and many domestic violence experts and advocates have concerns not only about the verdict, but about how the trial played out. Ruth Glenn is president and CEO of the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Ruth Glenn, thanks for being with us. First of all, what do you think the message was, not just of the verdict, but what went on in the courtroom and what went on outside the courtroom on social media?
I think, so first of all, thank you so much for having me. But I would say that what we witnessed during this case in the courtroom and certainly outside of the courtroom was a miscarriage of understanding the dynamics of domestic violence. We watched what was occurring in the courtroom, which was not really kind of focusing on what was the defamation issue, which was another issue, but also not dealing with or understanding in that court system and process what the dynamics of domestic violence are. Outside of the courtroom was something I don't think many of us have ever seen before, which was Depp supporters really taking a narrative and exerting a public opinion on social media and otherwise that may have impacted the results of this, the verdict of this trial.
Talk about that, what was going on social media. Heard said she received hundreds of death threats a day, countless social media posts mocking her testimony. I mean, what do you make of all that? Where did that come from?
You know, I firmly believe, as does this organization, and certainly is up for debate, but I believe that there was a machine behind this, which was, first and foremost, was a PR and a strategy and attorneys on Mr. Depp's side that understood that they had to do some of this to ensure that he had the support from his fans. You know, to put it quite simply, it's certainly more complicated on that side around strategy. But secondly, I think the thing that was most concerning for us here was the ability of to further control whom we believe is a victim of domestic violence, because we have the expertise in understanding the dynamics of domestic violence. And seeing all of the testimony, the evidence, and watching even the courtroom interactions and terms and such that were used, when you're going to make domestic violence a central theme to this, then we should have had domestic violence experts in that courtroom. So we dealt with the court of public opinion, which was mostly made up of Mr. Depp's fans, and then we dealt with not having domestic violence experts there, helping lead the conversation around domestic violence.
What message do you think this sends to, I mean, we know that domestic violence, sexual assault are underreported crimes. What message does this send to someone who may be experiencing this now and trying to figure out whether to speak up, whether to make the accusation?
I think it sends the message that as far as we think we've come as a society, and particularly as a nation, that we have not come that far. We still have to navigate some of the issues that have always prevented us from being able to speak out about being survivors and victims, which is you won't be believed, you don't have a right to voice it, and unless you're the perfect victim, a victim that is palatable to society and fits within whatever that stereotype is, it's probably best that you not speak. I do want to be clear, though, I don't want this to be a turning point for that. I do think that there is hope, and this is a blip that will and may prevent some chilling effect, but we're going to have to keep moving forward and allowing victims and survivors to have their voice and talk about the abuse that they've endured. You talked about the stereotypical abuse survivor, someone who's palatable to the general public. Talk a little bit more about that, and was Amber Heard fit into that? So, you know, the stereotype of a victim, I used this analogy earlier today, which is, you know, you see the billboard by the bus stop of the victim who has the black eye, and she's has 3 children held close to her, and she may be her everyday white woman who's just had a series of bad things happen to her, including domestic violence. I would say to all of us that is a stereotypical view. Amber Heard did not fit in that stereotype, and most victims and survivors do not. I think this is one of the few times that we saw where she absolutely did not fit into the stereotype.
Ruth Glenn of the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, thank you very much.
Thank you.
听完访谈后，现在我们来做一个总结。在访谈里，美国国家反对家庭暴力联盟的总裁兼首席执行官 Ruth Glenn 对案件的6个观点是：第一，这是一场诽谤官司，法庭上所发生的事情并没有真正关注在什么是诽谤这个问题，焦点模糊。第二，这案件的结果是对家庭暴力发展动态的理解事物。第三，陪审团有很大可能已经被社交媒体上的报道和舆论影响。第四，他们应该在这个法庭上传召家庭暴力专家，但是并没有家庭暴力专家被传召。第五，人们对家庭暴力受害者存有刻板和固定的形象或想法。第六，Amber Heard 并不符合这种刻板和固定的形象，而大多数受害者和幸存者也都没有符合这形象。第7点，这只是 Law Sister 的个人意见，陪审团是由5位男人和2位女人所组成的，不够平均，因为男人和女人对家庭暴力受害者的定义和反应有很大的不同。以上的7点不禁让 Law Sister 想到，如果以上7个因素有所改变的话，会不会影响这案件的结果呢？ 好啦，今天这一支影片就到此为止，谢谢大家的观看，我是 Angel，我们下一支影片见，拜拜。